Good evening. Welcome to INN's Headlines and Beyond for March 20th, 2012. Just a quick upfront note. This news broadcast will be cut into two pieces because there is a 30-minute limit and we have more content than we can fit in the 30 minutes. As our broadcast has grown, as our sources have grown, we have more information to bring you. And if you want to find out what's really going on in the news, you want to pick up the hood, you want to see what's going on behind the curtains, this is the channel to watch. Because we will give you everything plus. We will show you in the context of history what is going on. We will show you what a lot of the people in the know who know what's going on. We'll show you what they know. And we'll show why, in most cases, what you're seeing on the major media outlets is fiction. Right? That's the best way to call it, is fiction, because most of the mainstream media outlets, including this is any media outlet that's either supported by a corporation or by a government, these news agencies will hide information from you because they will always support the hand that's feeding them. And if anything negative that or possibly could be negative that could attack the hand that feeds them, they simply won't do it, and they will hide that information from you. Here we have no such loyalties. We are independently funded through a blind trust that uses private funds that are generated in other means. And so we have no loyalties to keep. We have no qualms about exposing things that other major media outlets would have problems exposing because they're on the take. More often than not, what you will not see here is you will not see any copyright here at all. We are not DCA affiliated. We are completely free speech oriented. Most media and government organizations, if you watch at the end of the news, you will find out that everything is copywritten and that you cannot analyze any of the information that they put out without their permission. And as I said in last night's broadcast, that this asking for permission to criticize someone, to do a full, proper news analysis on it, is like asking Hitler for permission to say something bad about him. DCA is full-on censorship. And now we will continue on in this vein because as we were looking at the U.S. primaries, and today Romney was hailed as a victor in Illinois, and they are licking their chops and looking forward to see that maybe Romney will clinch this thing. They're trying to encourage the other nominees to drop out and have this thing done and over with, so they can get on with the duties of beating Obama. The problem here is that they really haven't touched on the proper issues. As I stated last night, the economic issues that the United States is facing has nothing to do with the standard economics. Economics is actually a mix of a couple of things. If you look at economics it's largely a monetary matter, but due to policies of the government, political events and political behavior can affect and be a factor in the economy, and this is certainly the case in this recession. This recession was worsened and deepened by the policies of the Obama administration. Example: everyone's freaking out about how China unfairly does this and does that. Well, look at the EPA rules. How many plants has the EPA shut down? Look at the pipeline. The EPA shut that down. And so the thing is that the Obama administration, and the thing is Obama is supposed to be promoting these clean energy, this new the solar energy, which is very expensive. Anyone who knows about solar knows you can't run a grid on solar alone. You have to have backup batteries. There's a huge amount too, because solar is very efficient. Basically, you only get the amount of power for the amount of sunlight that's out there, and even not that. It depends on the latitude you're at. If you're at the higher northern latitudes, where the sun dips down below the horizon earlier than you are closer to the equator, then you're going to lose time in terms of power. But Obama wants to do this. It says this is the direction we're going to go. He banned light bulb manufacturing in the United States. Instead of the manufacturers saying, okay, we're not going to manufacture light bulbs anymore, they are going to be manufacturing light bulbs. You're going to be able to buy light bulbs in terms of the incandescent light bulbs in the United States and even in Canada. What's going to happen? They simply moved all their factories to China. So what the Obama administration has done with a lot of their policies is continuously push businesses and industries from the United States and into China. And they're doing the same thing with coal. They've done the same thing with oil. They're doing the same thing with the distillates, the refinery producing gasoline. They've put so many environmental restrictions on refineries that they really can't expand. You can't produce a new one. So now there is talk in the oil industry, and there are just very significant plans of building oil refineries in China. Basically what's happening here is that every industry that we're rejecting, China says, "Oh, fine, bring it here." So it's not that Obama is with open arms welcoming industry. They're not doing that at all. What they're doing is they're pushing every industry. Every time they have an EPA issue where if a lizard or a salamander is threatened, that whole entire industry is shut down. And of course, China picks up the slack and says, "Okay, we'll take that industry." So this is what I was saying, is that the issue for this economic recession is not a monetary issue. This isn't a monetary problem. This is a political problem. This is about a political policy. This is about government coming in and stating that it is the main employer in the economy. It is the fundamental engine of the economy, and pushing the free market out. It has taken this model, and Obama has made no bones about this, about spreading the wealth around, wealth distribution, in the model that we see in Europe and in Canada. Well, in Europe and Canada, and if this is the model they want to follow, here's a little surprise. Here's a little surprise for you union guys. While they were shutting down GM plants and all the auto manufacturing plants here in the United States, do you know what they were doing? Your brothers in arms were doing in Canada? They were stealing your jobs. Why? Because the Canadian government came in and subsidized all the auto industries, all the American auto industry. So that rather than shutting down a plant in Canada, they shut down a plant in the United States. The same thing occurred in Europe, and now they're building plants in China and in Asia. In fact, GM, how it's bragging about its sales now, if you go and look at its sales records, you'll see that the primary area that it has done well in terms of its profits, was in Asia. Its bread and butter now is in Asia. It's not in the United States. And so the American government is subsidizing this. And I think look at the film industry. Look at all the different TV shows that we have that are so-called Canadian made, right? We would call the Hollywood North. Come up in here and see how many shows are made. Watch the shows up here from the Canadian networks, and you will see behind every TV show, whether it's a cartoon or whatever it is, you will see a Canadian government label saying "paid for by the government." That's what it essentially says. And what the Canadian government has been doing, and this is true of the provincial governments and the local government, is they've been subsidizing the entertainment industry up here, keeping the jobs up here, and killing the jobs in the States. Your animation studios, right? Ever wonder why the studio's tax rex is now Los Studios tax rex or Les Studios tax rex? Either French or Mexican. That's because these governments set up government-owned agencies to pull the jobs from the United States into their countries, and these corporations, the media corporations, these are the same ones who are behind the DCA. These are the same ones who are behind the SOPA. These are the same ones behind Protect IP. These are the same ones, and now they're trying another one called a backdoor version of SOPA. These companies are the ones killing the jobs in the United States and receiving great subsidies overseas and moving their jobs over there. This is about, and it should be about, and this is what the election should be about, is about American independence. Not what a government can do for you, not what a union can do for you, not what a big corporation can do. This is about American independence. And our ability to use our own ingenuity to develop and live the lifestyle that we choose to live in. Now, as I said, this is something you're not going to hear on NBC, which is owned by GE. This is not something you're going to hear on ABC, which is owned by Disney. This is not something you're going to hear on CBS, which is owned by Fox and Viacom. This is not something you're going to hear on PBS, on NPR, who gets its money from Obama and Obama-style governments, these socialist type of governments. You're not going to see it on the CBC or any of the Canadian channels because it gets its money from the government. You're not going to see this on European TV because its news channels gets its money from the government, just like the BBC and Al Jazeera, who get money from the British government. Al Jazeera is, even though it operates out of Dubai, is primarily a British-run operation. It's an extension of the BBC. And the BBC has a long history of using the media to deal with issues surrounding MI5 and MI6. MI5 and MI6 are the British intelligence agencies. Military Intelligence Agency 5 and Military Intelligence Agency 6. Right? This is what the MI4, and this is where James Bond was. So it should come as no surprise that when these government-sponsored agencies and when these corporate-sponsored agencies, the media agencies, start skewing the news and start putting up these bogus reports, or reports that just simply don't tell the whole thing, and they're basically propaganda or PR spin for a particular politician or a political group. This shouldn't come as a surprise to you when these people are beholden to these larger organizations, either a government or a corporation. The only way you can get independent news, independently verified news, is from an independent organization, from an independent journalist who has gone out, has no beholdens to anybody, and gone out and done this. Has gone out and done the research, gone out and sourced the materials. And the thing is, people say, well, why can't you give us the source of the materials? Because these people, the source that you're going to, are providing with information that people really don't want out and around. And they will go to great lengths to silence these sources. So if you want to keep your source around, you don't tell people who your source is. That's a simple fact of the business of journalism. And the thing is that this is where the hypocrisy of what's going on at NBC actually shows up here. Is this is a video that I saw last night. I was able to pull off the internet from some of my sources, and it says the new rules that have been passed in the dead night through executive order by Obama. And I think this is a guy who says he was there for promoting the freedom for everyone. This is why Jon Stewart and all those other people who support Obama. You're all bullshit. I'm sorry about this, but you're all bullshit because you're all hiding behind the DCA. You're all supporting president who's signing draconian and Orwellian laws into place. And one of these laws last night it showed a video of police officers arresting an NBC crew in front of a hospital. They were just simply doing the news the way they normally do the news, and this cop, on his authority, because they weren't in the South Park term respecting his authority, arrested these reporters. He arrested the anchorman and he arrested the cameraman. They say, oh, they were later released, and the police department issued a bullshit release about how these news people were entering the hospital creating disturbance. Well, the video footage clearly shows that this is not the case. And it shows how the police department now routinely lies, just the way we see in Abu Ghraib, just the way we see in any of the human rights abuses where we see troops are involved. This cover-up, this lie, permeates all levels of government, including the police, including the detectives, including anyone who has good intentions behind there in the law. You're all tainted now because the general system has become so corrupt that we're now losing our freedoms. But the thing is, you're not going to see the loss of freedoms pop up in the news. Why? Because who's pushing SOPA? Who's pushing Protect IP? Who's pushing all this stuff? In the DCA. It's the media industry. This is Disney. This is the movie studios. This is the TV studios. All these industries, the music industry, everybody, they're all participating in this destruction of American freedom. And the thing is, this is what is repeatedly pointed out by groups, and this is where, Rush Limbaugh and all these other guys, here's where their grain of truth is. They're right. They're right that the media is working for control and trying to play kingmaker. But here's where again, they become bullshit. If you use the DCA, if you put that copyright up there and you block people, and you say you're a news and information program, and you block people from analyzing your work, and you flag that work, and you take it down from YouTube or wherever it's posted, and you're using, and with this Protect IP, this SOPA, and all these other, you will be using these laws are being done in your name, then all the work you talk about, everything that Glenn Beck talks about, is all bullshit. And this goes the same thing for Martin Sheen or any of these so-called Hollywood activists who are basically PR people. I mean, if you want to work on freedom, the first freedom you need to work on is freedom of speech. And you can't be hiding behind DCA in order to do that. If you say you're for free speech and you use DCA and you have a copyright symbol on anything you produce that you say you have a statement you're going to be out there, you're going to be politically active, you're bullshit. You're bullshit and you're a traitor to the American ideal. Because you can't use DCA and still say you're for free speech at the same time. So how can you stand up before Congress the way George Clooney does and says, oh, we need to do something in Sudan? And pretend that you're a great freedom fighter and that you're fighting for it, and talk about how his dad was a journalist. His dad wasn't a journalist under the DCA. His dad was a journalist when things were free and you could say, and you didn't have to ask permission to criticize somebody. George Clooney and his statements are all protected and blocked from criticism by the DCA. George Clooney is bullshit. The same thing goes for Jon Stewart. You can't say anything against his stuff. You can't produce any of the videos on there because you can't put the stuff on there because it's blocked by the DCA. This isn't free speech. So he stands up and does all the stuff he does, and does his comedy. That's not satire. That's mocking. Satire has a degree of credibility behind it. What he does, because he's hiding behind the DCA, and you cannot criticize the work he does because it's protected by the DCA, has no validity as an argument or a political statement. If he's trying to be, this so-called, comedic, let's call him not a comedian but a satirist. He's a satirist is a comedian who uses a lot of satire in the work, and they bring out how smart they are, and they put in these sort of hidden jokes and so on and so forth. Any show that does this now and that uses the DCA is all bullshit. They're not Americans. I mean, Americans mean you have to support the American. You have to. It's not a geography. And as I've heard this before, being an American is about geography. It's not about geography. It's about your understanding and your respect for American freedoms, and that's the individual freedoms. It's not socialism. If you're a socialist, which stands against individual rights and in protection of minorities, and that's what socialism does. Ultimately, if you sit down and you read any of the socialist history, whether it's Karl Marx or it's in what happened in Russia, what happened in Nazi Germany, which is socialism, or any of these socialist regimes, it is not about individualism. It's about the common good of society. And the individual and the minority need to be sacrificed, need to be eliminated for the common good of society. This is not this crap they're coming out with, like Michael Moore comes out with, about how it's about freedom for everybody. It's not about freedom for everybody. It's about freedom for an elect few who believe they have the intelligence to tell everyone else what to do, and they hover over you like this nanny state. And then a nanny state basically is an Orwellian term for a big brother state. It refers back to 1984. And I suggest, this is what I say: go back and read 1984. Go back and read Animal Farm, and you'll see why you see a lot of these protests. The WTO protests. They're all being used. These people don't understand that and a lot of the young people who support socialism, who believe in this ideal state that has no religion. You've been lied to. If you're a person out there and you're an atheist right now, and you're looking forward, and you're young, and you're looking forward to this ideal state with no religion that will solve everybody's problems, you've been lied to. That's already been done. And it was filled with gulags and execution camps. There has never been a socialist state which has done away with religion that didn't have these re-education camps, did not have the gulags, it did not have these massive death camps. The death camps we saw in Auschwitz, in Dachau, in Germany, are a standard tool of socialism. And this is why people who freak out about, so you see about Glenn Beck freaking out about socialism, this is what he's freaking out about. But he doesn't realize that if you participate in socialism, this includes the DCA as part of socialism, and Glenn Beck is participating in this. I see he's got the copyright emblem out there. Then he's part of the fascist problem, no matter what he says on the air. And the same thing goes again for Martin Sheen or any of these other activists. Doesn't matter what you say, if you're hiding behind the DCA and you're suing people because they're taking your stuff without permission, you're a fascist. And the thing is that we shouldn't be surprised when we see things like the TSA screening a 3-year-old at an airport. I mean, that was one of the other things that the video went viral about the TSA, who are essentially they are the fascist guard the way they're like the Stasi, they're like the SS, they're like any fascist police organization, blindly following the commands of this fascist dictator. They don't think; they just simply do. They say, "Oh, it's not my fault. I'm just simply following orders." As an American, you have a right and a duty to stand up for your conscience. And if some higher up says to you to violate the Constitution, violate individual rights and freedoms, you need to say no. If you do not say no, then you are a traitor, just like the other person who's giving you the order. Simply following orders does not exempt you from your responsibilities to the rights and freedoms of Americans. And the thing is, these issues impact, and this is what's been happening now, people wondering why we're in the financial mess that we're in, is because these issues have an impact on how people spend their money. Because there are limitations and regulation on how you can spend your money. These Orwellian measures is what keeping you down. When you want to elect a government, you want to elect a government who stays out of your life, who just doesn't sit there and tell you exactly how to, what toilet paper to buy, or what light bulb to buy, or how long you can keep your lights on. This isn't the job of the government. As soon as the government starts coming in and doing this, and say, "Oh, we're going to put corn in the gas tank. We're going to take some of the food that you're having, and we're going to put it towards fuel. So this pushes food prices up." That affects your economy. Look at all the rise in the cost of the food price. This is from this alternative energy stuff, and none of this has been proven. The whole concept of global warming is just simply that, a concept. There's no real scientific evidence behind it. All these people who are working on and then these people will tell you, "Oh, we're not corporate big oil scientists. We're working on the environment, purely out of esoterical purpose, for esoterical purposes." That's a lie. Because these scientists receive their funding from the government. And if the government says we are going to be studying environmental science and global warming, then you as a government scientist taking from the university or anywhere who's applying to the government for a grant need to put global warming and global warming issues inside your grant in order to get the money you want. So all these people who are saying, "Oh, this is global warming, this is global warming," they're getting paid for this. If you sit down and you look at the research reports, there are an enormous amount of holes in the research. This was proven with Al Gore's hockey stick. This was proven with the climate data that came out of the Met Office in England. Over and over again, we see these problems. So at this point in time, we're coming up on the half-hour mark. I'm going to tell you to move over to part 2. There's going to be a link in the down below, immediately right below. Go to that. This will be the second section of the news broadcast, where we'll finish up on this topic and move on to the next topic. All right, we'll see you in just a few seconds.